Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today, we will be discussing about India-Nepal relations, which have been witnessing strains recently. Amid strains in India-Nepal ties, senior diplomats of the two countries today held a virtual meeting to review the progress made on various projects being undertaken in Nepal with Indian assistance. Prior to this, Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli called up his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi 2 days back to greet him on India's Independence Day. These developments come against the backdrop of severe strain in the bilateral relations, which have been traditionally very warm and unique. The strains emerged after Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated a 80-kilometer long strategically crucial road connecting Lipulekh Pass with Dharchula in Uttarakhand on May 8. Nepal protested against this and came out with a political map which showed some Indian territories as part of Nepal. After that, there have been verbal skirmishes and other developments too. In the agenda today, we will discuss about these developments and the impact on bilateral ties. We have with us two special guests, Ambassador Dr. Deepak Vora, who is a former Indian diplomat, and Ambassador Vijay Kant Karna, who is a former diplomat of Nepal, from whom we will hear the view from Nepal. But before we start the conversation, let us have a look at this small report.
In a development that could have seen as breaking of ice in SAARC relations, senior diplomats of India and Nepal held a virtual meetings today, 2 days after Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli called up Prime Minister Narendra Modi to wish him and India on the Independence Day. The meeting of the oversight mechanism reviewed the status of various development projects being undertaken in Nepal with Indian assistance and other joint projects like developing a Ramayan circuit. Nepalese Foreign Secretary Shankar Das Bairagi and Indian Ambassador to Nepal Vinay Mohan Quatra led the delegations of their respective countries. A comprehensive review of the bilateral cooperation was undertaken where both sides discussed ways to expedite implementation. The phone call by Oli to Modi and today's meeting took place against the backdrop of the strain in the relations between the two countries. The strains emerged after Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated a strategically crucial road connecting the Lipulekh Pass with Dharchula in Uttarakhand on May 8. Nepal protested it, claiming that it passed through its territory. Days later, Nepal came out with a new map showing Lipulekh, Kalapani and Limpu Yadura as its territories. Subsequently, in June, Nepal's parliament approved the new political map of the country featuring areas which India maintains belong to it. India termed the move as artificial enlargement of territorial claims by Nepal. There have been certain other utterances by PM Oli which have caused discomfort in India. The latest development, however, are signs that all is not lost in the unique relations between the two countries, and through the proper management, the warmth in the ties can be maintained. Bureau Report.
So let us welcome our guests, Ambassador Vora and Ambassador Karna, to the program. My first question is to Dr. Vora. Dr. Vora, how do you see the development today? Diplomats of the two countries met 2 days back. PM Oli called up Prime Minister Modi to wish Independence Day greetings. How do you see these developments? Are these kind of ice-breaking?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaul, for this opportunity to learn from you, from your extensive knowledge, and I also welcome my colleague from Nepal, Ambassador Karna. Sir, your question about why this is happening and where are we now, does it represent a breakthrough or does it represent breaking the ice? Let me just say that our response to the provocations that we perceive from our point of view and that have come from Nepal has been very sober, very moderate, very measured. We've kept channels of communication open. We've said that we were willing to discuss all issues. We did not play the nationalism card. Now, that I believe would have encouraged the leader of Nepal, the Prime Minister, actual Prime Minister at this time, to reach out and say, look, India hasn't been critical or abusive or vituperative. They haven't said things which are outrageous like he's been saying about the Lord Ram and etc., that maybe this is a good time now. It's India's Independence Day. The people are celebrating. They're very happy. They're very proud. This is the right kind of thing. India is in a right mood, so to speak, for me to make this thing. Sir, if I may, with your gracious permission and with due respect to my colleague from Nepal, also say that what I'm seeing today with Mr. Oli is what I personally call the Godfather trap, which he seems to be falling into. You serve your Godfather faithfully, then because he assures you of safety against your enemy, protection against your enemy, then he either makes up with your enemy or he has no further use for you and he dumps you. Even in the last 30 years, we've seen this in Vietnam. The North Vietnamese were dumped by China. The South Vietnamese were dumped by the United States. We've seen what's happened to Saddam Hussein. Once a darling of the West, he was dumped. The Shah of Iran, with the fifth most powerful military once upon a time, fell out with the United States. They threw him out like a fly pointing into your tea. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto dumped Muammar Gaddafi, a darling of the West once upon a time. Anti-Zionism, anti-imperialism, out he goes. One after the other, I've seen this. When there is no use for your sidekick, your godfather doesn't hesitate to dump you. Your relationship with India, on the other hand, Nepal's, is so strong that it has never been a godfather-godson relationship. It has always been a relationship of two peoples who have very strong spiritual, emotional, educational, medical ties, the number of Nepalese who come for treatment here. How can you overcome this? Prime ministers in this country or that country or any other country will come and go. The people-to-people relationship endures.
Okay, let me now turn to Ambassador Karna who is joining us from Kathmandu. Ambassador Karna, let me pick up from where Mr. Ambassador Vora, Dr. Vora left. He said that India's response to whatever comments and developments from Nepal has been sober. And there is a perception or view here that maybe Nepal's Prime Minister Oli has been more provocative. How do you see these things?
Yes, I do agree with them, Mr. Bora, that the Prime Minister Oli is much more provocative these days. I can say since 5-6 months, he's much more provocative in Parliament, he's much more provocative in other forum while he was speaking about India. There are various reasons behind it. But first I am telling you the telephonic conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Oli was very good. I can just say that this is a effort to a kind of ice breaking, and they start talking. And before that, today our Foreign Secretary, Mr. Shankar Das Bairagi, and India's ambassador in Kathmandu, and Mr. Binay Mohan Quatra had a long discussion over the different projects, the situation, what are the problems, intentions on the India's many, and India has completed around among 50,000 houses, 46,000 already built and handed over to the Nepalese, destroyed by the earthquake 4 or 5 years back. So it is a good initiative taken by both the Prime Minister, both the diplomats from both countries. Since almost 6 months, the diplomatic deadlock continues, and we Nepali and the India, we are a different level of relations between India and Nepal. At the people level, at the religious, cultural, social, many levels of relations. It's not only the two foreign ministry guided all the relations. It is not guided by the foreign ministry or the diplomats, but the people-centric relation is much more higher and much more, strong than the political and diplomatic relations. So, what during almost 6 months, what we observed that the border issues, which is pending since a long time, not it's around 30, 40 years that we yet not solved. And I cannot give one country to Nepal or India. The both are responsible for the equally that it has to be, it could have been done earlier, it could have been solved earlier, but I don't know why the reason that both the countries left this issue for a long time. But the way the issue has been raised in November after the India's new, the political map by declaring Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh in separate two states and the India's constitutional amendment over that. But after that, when I can say that it was the very provocative statement from Nepali side, as well as provocative statement of India's military chief, that when he says that Nepal is working on behest of other countries. So this is actually, the Nepali and Indian army has another kind of relation exists when the Indian army chief is the honorary chief of the Nepal army, and Nepal army chief is the honorary chief of the Indian army. So we have such kind of relations exist among the different institutions, different organizations. So the Prime Minister only why he did it on all these things, there are various reasons behind it. He is facing 2-3 problems at the moment. The Prime Minister only has the first problem he is facing within his party. He has been challenged by his 3 former Prime Ministers from his party, and he is in minority in his party. The first. Second thing is that during 2.5 years of his government, he has been branded a very corrupt government, and historically there are a lot of corruption issues, major corruption issues, the billions of dollars funded by China, funded by other countries, airlines corruption, then even the COVID. Third thing that his government is completely failure in controlling COVID, managing quarantine places, hospitals and all. And during this course, his government has been blamed, and investigation already started on the purchase of the medicine and medical equipment by his government. So in all these things, he has tried to best to transfer it to nationalism, a kind of a national, which he tried to anti-India nationalism, he tried his best. So that was one of the reason I can say that the issues. But one thing that I can say that the way the India's Defence Minister inaugurated the road, it was not desirable. It was agreed that all the bilateral issues, border dispute will be discussed, and it will not taken by any party. But the inauguration of the road was at the time was not desirable during this COVID time. But the reaction of the Nepali, Nepal's government, Prime Minister, was also not desirable. That I can tell about this question.
So, Ambassador Karna, so you gave an very detailed overview. So, if I pick up some points, you are trying to say since Oli is facing a lot of charges of corruption and failure on governance and other issues, so he is trying to distract attention by painting India as a villain. Is that true?
One thing you keep in mind that Nepal is a small country, and since a long time the Nepalese nationalism is based and built on anti-Indianism and some of the content which is based on the people living in Tarai. So there are two basic components that the nationalism is built here. So the Prime Minister tried his best to how can he divert the people's attention towards the map. So he could have tried to diplomatically deal with India. So instead of trying to diplomatic negotiation on the border or the map, other issues, he tried to create an atmosphere in Nepal against India. And why I told you about the reason behind it, that the government, the governance issues, corruption, and many issues are here, actually. So these are the things, and that's why he tried to that. You are right, yes.
Okay, let me ask now Ambassador Vora about the comments you made. Ambassador Vora, Ambassador Karna made some interesting comments, and how do you see those comments about that? I mean, problems being faced by Oli, and he's trying to divert attention.
Ambassador Karna, thank you very much. I'm very impressed with your candor and your perceptiveness. This is absolutely true. Any country in the world, yours, mine, or any others, when a domestic issue arises, then the domestic leader tries to externalize people's attention towards some perceived or real grievance against somebody else. In this context, sir, you referred to our assistance after your earthquake in 2015. May I remind you, sir, and the people who are watching this show, and there are millions of them, that our relief for Nepal began within 15 minutes, sir. 15 minutes of the earthquake. I live in the nation's capital, less than half a kilometer from your embassy, and we were delighted to see truckloads of supplies being sent to your embassy by religious organizations, political parties, civil organizations. Everybody and his grandmother and the grandmother's neighbor was doing what he or she could to help Nepal, which really shows the fund of goodwill that exists in India for Nepal. I would also like to remind Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, sir, that China is not a viable alternative to India. We've talked about this. Our equity in Nepal is much too deep. Ambassador Karna, may I remind you that in 1945, when the Second World War ended and the Japanese surrendered, in Vietnam, they surrendered to Ho Chi Minh, the leader, the great leader of Vietnam, then of the Communist Party, and to the Chinese. But the French were preparing to come back and reclaim their territory in Indochina. So Ho Chi Minh's party cadres said, look, the Chinese are here, they've accepted the surrender of the Japanese, let the Chinese stay, then the French will not dare come back. And Ho Chi Minh's prophetic words, sir, he said, don't be silly. If the French come back, they are foreigners, we'll boot them out. But if the Chinese come, they will never leave. The last time they came, they stayed for 1,000 years. So this is a message that needs to be driven home. They have no affection for you. I personally believe that Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli is playing into their hands, because a friendship with China that is meant to be anti-Indian is not going to last. You cannot build a relationship with any country based on animosity, on common animosity to anybody else. India is your neighbor. We are here. All your goods, 80% of your trade passes through Indian ports, which are right next door. China is 3,000 kilometers away. So I believe that Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli at this point of time, and he took the lead in making that phone call, understands that this game is not going to go on for too long. The Chinese will use him, will abuse him, and will dump him, as they have done with so many in their history. If history is any guide, sir, he's playing with fire and he's going to get badly burnt. I wish him luck, but I don't believe that even luck will favor him, sir.
Okay, let me ask the same question to Ambassador Karna. Ambassador Karna, is PM Oli playing with fire by the perception as it is that he is moving closer to China? And how feasible is relationship with China at the cost of India?
Look, yes, to some extent it is right that he is very close to the China at the moment. There are 2-3 reasons behind it. China is in Nepal since 10 years, 10-15 years, has been very active. After 2008, declaration of republic. So Chinese has tried to build his close relationship with Communist Party in Nepal. And they have a very strategic relationship, and since he leads his party in government, as well as he is the chairman of the party. So since he came first time in 2016, he has been active to sign so many agreements with China. And he tried to bring railway and many Chinese project in Nepal. And China is not only the economic and developmental project, he tried to keep, another strategic relationship with Nepal. So Chinese engagement in Nepal at the moment is a very big level. Chinese Communist Party and Nepal Communist Party sitting together, more than 500 Communist Party cadre already trained in China, and every day 2-3 virtual training has been held, and the chairman of the party and other top leaders, our defense minister also sit in the training conducted by the Chinese Communist Party. These are the things I agree that with them, Mr. Bohra, that the Chinese engagement in Nepal is in a big. And during this 2.5 years of the Oli government, Chinese investor in Kathmandu has been very active in managing political feuds in the party, in the Communist Party. She has been very active, visiting door to door to all the top leaders. Communist Party, when there is a problem in the Communist Party, he used to visit all sitting Prime Minister and all X3 former Prime Minister. She used to visit and discuss and settle, sometimes facilitating the issues among the leaders. And she has been a facilitator in the Communist Party at the moment. So the party and government at the moment is close to China. There is no question over that. It is already open. And try to build a strategic relationship with the China. So this is a new development in Nepalese context. But the things are that not you cannot blame only this. This is due to this reason that, because that I have a question that why India and Nepal did sit since a long time to settle these issues. Why they keep this issue so long time? We have signed in 2004 or 5, we have done 98% of the border between Nepal, and we have signed a strip map. But the two places, one is this Kalabani, another in near Hisar something in Bihar. The place is the Susta. So the two places we left. And both the countries try to avoid these issues.
Ambassador Karna, if I may interrupt you.
But I cannot say that on this map issue.
Ambassador Karna, can I interrupt you?
Yes, I am hearing.
Yeah, so my question is, you are talking about the border issue which is unresolved for 40 years or so. Isn't it ironic that India and Nepal,
Hello?
isn't it ironic that India and Nepal are talking about a border dispute when the two countries have an open border policy?
Yes. We have the open border, and open border is a strength of the relation between the countries, because the border created after 1816, and people from both the countries living before that. So the people in the border, almost 1800 kilometer border, where both the side, in some of the places except, the people are living in the border. So the open border is a strength. But that the border is demarcated, border is monitored. It's not the open in the sense that it is not non-monitored. There are a lot of security forces there, both the countries has the security forces. And some 18 or 20 places we have a custom authority, all the security agencies, intelligence agencies from both the countries, even paramilitary forces are there in both the border. But I have a question that why such issues where everybody knows that the such issues could have been done earlier, settled earlier, but we left the issues for such a long time.
Okay, let me ask this question to Ambassador Vora. Ambassador Vora, as Ambassador Karna says, this issue has been left lingering. Why so?
Any issue between two countries lingers if either one or the other or both parties decide that it is not important enough to solve it at that time. It's very, very simple. Sir, today, even as we speak, within the UN system, there are probably 200 disputes between and within countries on border issues. I did some research on this. A time has to come when you solve this. Otherwise, you focus your attention on something else. And for Nepal, sir, as one of the 48 least developed countries in the world, the priority should be development, should be an attack on poverty, on conflict. I mean, His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Nepal, Shri K.P. Sharma Oli, would like to be remembered as someone who moved his country forward, did not regress into historical antagonisms. So, sir, why is this issue still pending? Because no one found it worthwhile or sufficiently important because of the excellent people-to-people relationship, government-to-government relationship to solve it with any sense of urgency. One more thing about the road that my wonderful colleague from Nepal referred to. Sir, the road is not a threat to your security. I just don't understand how this has been perceived in your country. We are not at all at any point of time intending to take over Nepalese territory. That's not our style. It is the style of the other fellow. Remember a country called Tibet, sir? I mean, your relevance to China in the earlier years was only to stem the flow of refugees from Tibet out into Nepal and then on to India. But that is now a trickle. It's no longer a factor. Why then is he interested in Nepal, sir? Ask yourself these fundamental questions. Who is your friend? And I reassure you, and through you, sir, all the wonderful Nepalese people who are watching, they are my friends too, sir. In my family, we have wives. Some of my relatives have wives who are of Nepalese origin, sir. Let me just say that this roti, beti, whatever we talk about, that rishta, let me assure you there is nothing except goodwill for Nepal in India, sir.
Okay, we are running out of time.
This goodwill.
We are running out of time.
I just said encash this goodwill. That's all.
One last brief comment from Ambassador Karna. As Ambassador Vora said, India does not believe in capturing territories. Do you think China is, as you just mentioned, the Chinese ambassador has been very active. So China is maybe provoking PM Oli? Brief comments.
No, I cannot say it this way. Actually, China is provoking Oli. Actually, I cannot say. But he himself is trying to hide his own inability and incompetence and his corruption. He has been badly affected. He couldn't appoint so long time of the constitutional bodies. The line. He tried to split the party. He brought some two ordinance while Parliament was not in the office, and both the ordinance in 5 days he has to taken back because that he tried to break some Madhesi party. He tried to appoint his own people through the appointment committee, which is in Nepal. We have a constitutional body which looks after all the appointment headed by the Prime Minister, leader of opposition and the speaker of both the houses, chairman of National Assembly as well as a speaker. So there are 6-member committee, but he tried to amend the law to make it 2-person committee, which was unconstitutional. So actually the Oli himself is facing one very crucial challenges for his government. Second thing, but the one thing that the people in Nepal, since Nepal is a very small country compared to China and India, the people of Nepal always fear of psychology that maybe India, maybe China took our land and something like that. It's a small nation. Actually, psychological things in the international politics. My point is that what I suggest at the moment that India and Nepal, I agree with the Ambassador Bohra that the people of India and Nepal so close, I can tell you, my three sisters are married in India. my many relatives at my family members are from India. So it's not my only, it's a
Yeah,
thousands and
India and
thousands of the
Nepal,
people.
India and Nepal have been having
Yeah.
roti beti ka rishta. So I'm
Yes, yes,
sure it will
that you
continue.
are not only roti vista, it's the family relation. It's
Yeah,
my mother is from India, so it's a family relation.
One-
So
It's not the-
I don't think some PM Oli Sharma can maybe disrupt that relationship. So I think my
Actually,
time is coming.
Nepal or India both cannot afford long-term deadlock. So Nepal needs India in international forum. India is one of the very good friend and the development partners, helping since more than 1950 in all the development efforts of Nepal. So that's why there is a need to sit in Kathmandu or Delhi and settle this issue as soon as possible.
So we hope that this issue is settled. And thank you, Ambassador Karna, for your wise words, and Ambassador Vora, thank you for participating in this debate.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.